Hi college algebra students, this is day 10 in chapter 3 about polynomial and rational functions. So what we're doing today is exactly like day 9. We're just going to do 3 examples, and if there's any questions, please make sure you bring them to class. So first thing with example 1, we are given f of x equals x minus 5 over x squared plus 3x minus 4, and we're going to state the following. The x-intercepts, if you remember from day 9, is when you set y equal to 0. In other terms, you could just set the numerator equal to 0. The y-intercept, that's when x equals 0. Vertical asymptotes is when you set the denominator equal to 0. Horizontal asymptote is where we compare the degree of the numerator to the degree of the denominator. Okay, and we'll talk about what that looks like in this case, but we're going to compare those together. Okay, starting off with A, x-intercepts. If we have to set the numerator equal to 0, then x minus 5 equals 0, x would be 5. So I'm going to cross at 5, 0. Y-intercept, set x equal to 0, f of 0, we're inputting a 0 everywhere we see an x. Should we do proper parentheses? A lot of that will simplify, so we're left with 5 over 4. That means we will cross at 0, 5 fourths. Vertical asymptote, set denominator equal to 0. Well, this is a quadratic in the denominator, so when we set the denominator equal to 0, we have to bring back our factoring knowledge. So when we factor, hopefully you see it will be plus 4 x minus 1. So this case will have 2 vertical asymptotes when you set them equal to 0. D is looking at the degrees, so the degree of the numerator compared to the degree of the denominator. Well, the numerator degree is 1 compared to the degree of 2. So in this case, the denominator is bigger because 2 is bigger than 1. That means in a case like this, y equals 0 is your horizontal asymptote. If you're confused about that, please go back to day 9 notes when we talked about those cases. Okay, that's example 1. Example 2, we're going to do the exact same thing, and then we're going to graph. So with example 2, I'm going to go through the algebra steps. So first thing, if you're doing x-intercept, y equals 0. In other terms, the numerator equals 0. Y-intercept has x equal to 0. Vertical asymptotes is denominator equal to 0. And then horizontal, we talk about the degree of the numerator compared to the degree of the denominator. So those should be the steps that you're thinking in your head as soon as you see a problem like this. Okay, A, setting numerator equal to 0. 4x squared minus 8 equals 0. Add over the 8. Divide the 4. When you take the square root, please don't forget that you have to add in the plus minus. So I'm going to cross at 2 points. Negative square root of 2 and positive square root of 2. Those are my x-intercepts. Y-intercept, set x equal to 0. So f of 0, 4 times 0 squared, that's going to go away. You get negative 8 over 0. Well, you cannot divide by 0. So in this case, I will not have a y-intercept. None. And that's okay. You just cannot divide by 0. Leads us to C, which is vertical asymptotes. Set the denominator equal to 0. Well, when you square root, yes, you put the plus minus, but realize plus or minus 0 is the same thing as just 0. And now I look at degrees. Well, the degree of the top and the bottom are both 2. So since they're 2, the degrees are equal. If they're equal, I take the ratio of the leading coefficients, just like we talked about on day 9. So that means it'd be y equals 4 over 1. Your horizontal is y equals 4. Part E now wants us to graph, so let's go part by part in graph. First thing we want is our x-intercepts. Notice root 2, it's not 2. It's actually between 1 and 2. So I'm going to put right there and right there. Those are my x-intercepts, and I like to check it off. I graphed it. Y-intercept, there's none. Oh, sweet. Cross that off. Don't have to do anything. X equals 0 is my vertical. There's a little dashed line there. Check. And horizontal is y equals 4. Check. So all of that comes directly from my information. Now the next part is connecting your curves to see where is the actual graph. Well, one thing I want to talk about again is with vertical asymptotes, we talk about the behavior. Do I go the same direction or opposite? For that, I look at the degree of the bottom. Keep in mind, denominator is where we find them, so that's why we look at the bottom. So the degree of the denominator is 2. Since it's even, that means I should approach it in the same direction. Again, that was from day 9. So I'm going to put the word here, even, and same, to remind myself that as I get to this line, this vertical asymptote, I should go the same direction. Which allows us now to connect, well, our one point we can't really connect it, but it's going to hug this asymptote. This point will hug that asymptote, hug this asymptote, and hug that asymptote. Well, good. They go the same direction. Okay, that confirms my shape and it confirms with my points. So great job. That was your first one. Last thing is looking at the asymptotic behavior. So here you just have to visualize. As x goes to 0, well, here's 0. So as I go to 0, what is happening to my f of x, my y values? Well, my y values are going down all the way to negative infinity. Part G is as x goes to infinity. Well, x going to infinity is positive, positive, all the way off the page. There we go. I'm going to get super, super close to your asymptote. So your y values will approach 4, which is your horizontal asymptote. Okay. One more example coming to you. We're going to do the exact same steps. So if you would like to pause and try it on your own, I think that would be a great idea. But let's start walking through. First thing, x-intercepts, that's when y equals 0, or your numerator equals 0. Y-intercept, x equals 0. Vertical asymptotes, denominator equals 0. Horizontal, we look at the degree of the numerator, compare it to the degree of the denominator. Okay, so now let's start doing the algebra. Numerator equal to 0, 9x minus 6 equals 0. 9x equals 6. X would be 2/3. So I'm going to cross at 2/3, comma 0. Y-intercept, plug in x is 0. F of 0, 9 times 0. 3 times 0. Get negative 1/2. So it's 0, negative 1/2 is where I will cross. Vertical asymptotes, denominator equals 0. Add over the subtract over the 12. Divide by 3. At x equals negative 4 is going to be my vertical asymptote. Horizontal, and now look at the degrees. Well, the degree of the numerator, you always look at the x coefficient, the largest x coefficient. Well, that's 1 compared to 1. So they're equal. Since they're equal, I take the ratio of the leading coefficients. So y would equal 9 over 3. Y equals 3 becomes my horizontal asymptote. Now we're going to graph each part. So start in order. I like to do that. X-intercept 2/3, 0. Check. 0, -1/2 for my y-intercept. X equals -4. Check. Y equals 3. And then here's where I like to look at the behavior at your asymptote. It is going to be the behavior at the vertical asymptote, which tells me to look at the bottom. So looking at the bottom, I look at the degree. The degree is 1. So since it's 1, that's odd. I should approach it in opposite directions. So maybe here I'm going to put the word opposite. So I know for myself, I should not be approaching that going the same way. Well, looking at what I have, I'm definitely going to connect these points and hug the asymptotes that are close to it. If I'm going down from the right, that means I have to go up from the left due to being opposite, due to that degree of the denominator. If you're ever unsure, feel free to make an XY table. Find a point to the left of your asymptote, maybe like -5, and just confirm that it's a positive number. Something up here versus something in the bottom. So there is your graph. We're going to look now at the asymptotic behavior as x approaches -4 from the right. So here's the right. I'm coming towards -4. As I get close to -4, my y value goes to -infinity. It goes all the way down. As x goes to -infinity, so here's all my x's. Okay, I'm going to go to -infinity using my graph, going. I'm going to get really, really close to, but never cross, the horizontal asymptote of 3. So that is your day 10 notes. If you have any questions, please bring them to class and be ready for a quiz in a couple days.